All right, 70.3 Oceanside talk action. So well I got the PowerPoint ready to go, or keynote, whatever the hell you call it, but we'll breeze over like the build up stuff and really hone in on the course specific stuff. So if you want to talk about the build up stuff in more detail, just unmute and we'll get into it. But let me share the screen here. I can't see the questions when I'm in the PowerPoint. So if you have a question, just unmute and ask along the way. It's open form. If you guys are watching this on YouTube after the fact, just put a question in the comments and we will get an answer to you. So just we're looking at the swim course here. You guys, can everybody see the keynote right now, or the spread? This is the swim course, right? That's how it's going to look. So that used to be the last few years they tried to go ocean side to harbor side. They changed it all, so it's all harbor side now. So if you look right where the 70.3 is on the screen, that's the first turn buoy. You come out to the first turn buoy, you make a left, and then you get a straight shot. You guys see that second turn buoy right below the O of Oceanside? That's a slight. We'll go over this in more detail, but as long as I have the picture up here, you guys can look at it. Slight left-hand turn. You go out to the far end of the course, up over right to the left of the eye is the far end of the course, right? So when you get out to that part of the course, that's where it gets a little bumpy. You guys might want to anticipate a little bit of swell, a little bit of chop as you get into the mouth. Because if you go to the left where this arrow is on the left-hand side, you see that little arrow that would say, okay, change the page. That's where the ocean is. So as that opens up to the ocean, that's where you get a little more chop. So when you're going left to right between those two red buoys, there's a good chance you're going to be going straight into a swell or a chop. Nothing's breaking, but it's just a little more bumpy. So it's something to look out for. You make that second left-hand turn and you start coming back, and that's where the sun starts to get into your eyes. So if you look to the right, so you guys everybody see what I'm saying? Like the eye is the first left-hand turn, and then you see the second red turn buoy. Is everybody with me on this? I'm pointing to it in my, like, you guys can see me pointing. You can't see me pointing. And then you're coming back into the sun. So a good thing, you could sight off swimmers in front of you, but you can also sight off that breakwater, the break wall on the right-hand side. If you're breathing to the right, you sight off that, you keep it a good equal distance, and that'll keep you moving toward in the correct direction. Because something that they put in the last few years is there's a turn buoy at the N. You look at the N of the Iron Man, the last N in Iron Man, and then there's another turn buoy right under the 3 of the 70.3. So you have to make sure you keep both those buoys on your right. You can't cut the tangent anymore like you used to be able to. And then you have the straight shot into the harbor. So the further you get away from that open mouth of the ocean, the calmer it gets. And by the time you're back in the harbor, it's back to really calm pool-like water. And then
So,
as you're coming into the finish, you can use those little piers, those little docks on the right-hand side. You see a boat there. That's all parked there race morning. You can use those to sight and to like you okay, let me swim past this boat. Let me swim past this dock. And then before you know it, you're at the finish. Go ahead,
hey, Dan,
Jacqueline.
clarification, because on the diagram on the website, it's showing you're keeping all of the buoys on your left. So coming back in, you want to keep them on your right.
Yeah, so those two right by the end, and there's one right under the 3, those stay on your right-hand side. Because
Okay.
they don't want you to cut the tangent. That's what we used to be able to do back in the day. You could cut off a couple hundred meters of the swim by cutting that corner there, and they don't let you do that anymore. So you those two turn buoys. We'll go over the course in more detail in a minute, but those two turn buoys you have to keep on your right. Everything else is on your left. All right. So like I said, questions, just unmute and ask. If you're on YouTube, ask it after the fact. In the comments, we'll get it answered ASAP. If you guys haven't added Tower 26 as your club in your profile, go do that. Malekian did it, and he was added, right? So we're getting points for him. We were the world champions last year. Let's do it again this year. We only do that if you add Tower 26 as your club in your Ironman profile. Race day checklist, just some things we'll breeze over for the swim. You obviously need what you're going to wear on the swim. You need your triathlon kit. You need your wetsuit, couple pairs of goggles. If it's not overcast, it's sunny, you're going to need those tinted pair of goggles. It could get pretty foggy there in the morning, so you want to be ready with a clear set of goggles too. Fog, you use clear. Sunny, You use that tinted set. Like I said, you're going to be coming back right into that sun. And then Vaseline. The water temperature is the high 50s, low 60s. I always put Vaseline on any exposed skin. I put it on my cheeks, the top of my hands, the top of my feet, and it keeps me a little warmer. Bike, make sure you have your tire kit. Now, if you have tubeless tires, one thing you're going to want to do in the next day or so is make sure you go and get the sealant refreshed in the tires. You don't want old sealant in your tires because then you're going to lose the contact between the rubber and the rim, and that'll lead to flats. So make sure you check the sealant in your tubeless tires. And if you haven't done that in quite some time, go to a mechanic this week in the next 2 days, have them refill the sealant so you're good to go and you don't have corroded sealant in there that's going to cause a flat the first bump you hit. Obviously, in your bike, your helmet, your shoes, your socks. Remember, on this course, you got to wear your race belt on the bike. So you're going to put on your race belt with your number when you, in T1 when you head out on the bike. They won't let you leave T1 without that number. Uh, Warm clothes. Now we'll go over the bike course in a minute, but maybe some gloves, maybe some toe warmers, but that's all you're going to need for warm clothes. Sunglasses, water bottle, any nutrition you're going to need, any kind of flat changing kit you'll need. And there are plenty of pumps around transition. You shouldn't need to bring your own pump unless it's something you want to fill up the day before, then leave it in your car. But they put pumps all on the outs on the fence on the outside of the transition area. It's inside transition, but the fence that's separating the outside of the transition area, there's a bunch of pumps there, so you can always use those. Obviously, for a run, you need your running shoes, some type of hat, visor, sunglasses, and then your nutrition. Miscellaneous things, your device, any type of body glide or Vaseline, sunscreen. I put on my sunscreen in the hotel before I leave, or the where I'm staying before I leave, and then I forget about it. But you do need sunscreen for after the race. In the area where you get your food and everybody's hanging out, you'll be hanging out drinking 17 Cokes. Before you know it, you look like a lobster. So if you don't put sunscreen on for the race, put sunscreen on after the race. When you're all hanging out, that sun is beating down. Everybody comes out of there, burn the heck. So after the race, put the sunscreen on. Electrical tape. Now, I say tape. If you guys have raced this race before, you know there's several sections of the course that are extremely bumpy. So make sure anything that might have a chance to loosen up or pop out, you have that cinched down. Especially within the first 3 miles, you go behind their little pantry, their store, and it is, I mean, it is like like bombs went off everywhere back there. So cinch anything down, tighten your bolts, make sure everything is secure on your bike, and then something you might want to change into after the race. This is the schedule. You guys can look that over. Just make note of the start times, when the transition opens, when the transition closes. But remember, you have a rolling start, so seed yourself accordingly. And typically, athletes are a little aggressive in their rolling start. So if you think you're going to be 40 minutes, seed yourself closer to that 35-minute area, so you're not with a bunch of people who are swimming 50 minutes. All right, so Saturday morning race day, make sure you give yourself plenty of time to eat. Eat something that's easily digested. Personally, I like oatmeal, banana, scoop of peanut butter, mash it all together, and then I sip on pH 1500 the entire morning. Bring something with you like a banana to eat if you get hungry in transition before the race. Start on those electrolytes. You can take electrolytes on Friday, but what's really going to make a difference is loading those electrolytes prior to the race. So at least 1500 milligrams race morning. Sip on that so you start ahead of the you get ahead on those electrolytes and you never get behind because it does heat up and it's extremely humid run course. We don't want to start behind the 8 ball. So get those electrolytes in early and often. Get their transition, get that set up right away, and then you can go do a little warm up, a little run, do your stretch cords. Make sure you know where that swim in, bike out is, and know the path you're going to take from the swim in to the bike. When you grab the bike to the bike out, and then once again from the bike in to your rack, and then where you're going to go from your rack to the run out. Get over to the swim on the earlier side. It gets really congested at the rolling start. You can be a little aggressive and, put your head down and barrel yourself through, but it helps if you get there a little early and then do a little warm up while you're standing around in the area that you want to start. All right. This is race morning. They have shuttles at the finish because you guys will be at the finish, but let's not worry about after the race. You guys can figure all that stuff out. All right. Questions so far? Anybody got anything? I can't see the question, so if you have a question, unmute and ask it.
I think to wear two swim caps on race morning especially Tower 26 cap. They're nice and thick, and pull it down over your ears. And then put your goggles on, and then put the Ironman race cap on. That's what I've always done. Wear two swim caps to keep yourself warm.
Yeah,
So,
to each, it depends on how cold you get in the water. If you're
yeah,
susceptible cold, then you need to make sure that you're taking precaution. I would say don't wear booties. You're
no.
fine. You do not need booties. If anything, they're going to slow you down and you'll spend more time in the cold water because of that.
And then
Um,
also race morning gets kind of cold down there. If I remember rightly, it was really cold
uh,
here.
it's not overly cold. Typically, there's a marine layer in there and it kind of traps in a little bit of warmth. So it's not as cold as you think it'd be. But But the water temperature is going to be the 50s, low 60s. So just be ready for it. Like I said, add that Vaseline. I don't think you guys should need neoprene hats. That just keeps in too much heat. And if you're bringing that core temperature up too high, you get halfway through the swim, you get overheated. That's gonna hurt you as the day goes on, as you get onto the bike and you get onto that run. So if anything, like Chris said, wear two caps and skip the neoprene cap. Those are just a little too warm for the conditions. All right, so yeah, so we have the turn buoys. As you see, we kind of went over the swim course already. We use the shore for the sighting. There's going to be swimmers in front of you, so just look at the splash of their feet, look at the splash of their arms, sight off of them as you're coming back into that sun. Watch out for that chop as it opens up into the mouth of the ocean at the far end of the course. Be ready
So
when you, yeah.
can you clarify which one we leave on the right? Because on the photos, it also seems that all the one on the last stretch alongside the keys were also
Yeah,
the
so
buoys
the
were
so
also
if
on the right. So is
yeah,
it from
so
kind of the red one at the corner?
Yeah, so if you look at, you get the first left-hand turn, it's kind of a, was that obtuse angle? And then you get two left-hand turns at the far end. And those are tight turns, guys. Just make sure you're turning more than you think you need to turn. Because once you get out to that red to red at the far end of the course, it's a huge breath of water, right? So if you get off course, you don't turn enough, you're all of a sudden you're heading out to Japan or whatever's on the other side of the ocean, right? So make a tight turn there, tighter than you think you need to make. Sight on that break wall on the right hand side, and then that one, two, three, the fourth turn buoy that's comes as you're coming back in. That's a right hander. You got to be on the right hand of that one, so you can't cut the tangent. You see what I'm saying there, Catherine?
Okay, so the last orange one and the red one.
Uh, yeah. So you see how it's yellow on the way out, then halfway through it turns to oranges. So it's one, two, three. It's after the fourth orange buoy. That's a right hand turn. And then you're
Okay.
straight into the finish, and it's, they veer you right to the finish. When you get to transition, it's a ramp straight up, right? So you're going to go from horizontal to vertical running straight up, and then it's a long run all the way down. If you guys look at that, where that T is, you're running that entire way all the way into transition at the far end of transition, right? So you're going to feel really discombobulated and your heart rate's going to be super high. Keep moving forward as you're running down that path to the entry of transition all the way down. The reason they do this is so everybody has to run the same distance to their bike. So you run all the way down, make a left-hand turn, another left-hand turn, you enter transition, that's where you run to your bike. But get moving. This is a transition area that you could fall into a lull, right? You could just start, walking, taking your time. You're all, kerfuffled from the swim, from getting out, going straight up that steep ramp. And you could start lollygagging down, and all of a sudden your transition is 10 minutes. And then after the race, you say, oh man, if I would have just been 3 minutes faster, I would have had a 3 minute PR or whatever it may be. Get moving. Let your heart rate come down as you're moving. You don't have to be sprinting, but get a like ginger walk or a nice jog going. And as you move, that heart rate will start to come down. And then you can make every second count as you get in the transition, because it's a long transition area.
Hey, Jim, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So, guys, real quick, I believe a right when you get out of the water, a cheat code, at least for me, is there's so many volunteers that they're wanting to help you, and so if you just go to a volunteer when you're going up the bike ramp, or sorry, the boat ramp, lie down, make eye contact with a volunteer, lie down, and they'll pull your wetsuit off. And so anyway, I've done it every time. I did it every single race that there's a wetsuit. That's what I do. And if you feel that's kind of you're comfortable doing that, I would highly suggest doing that, because then all you got to do, get up real quick, put the wetsuit around your back or around your neck, and just run to your. You know how hard it is to run in your wetsuit. At least for me, it is. So think about it, and if you feel comfortable doing it, I highly suggest doing it.
Yeah,
So you're
that
saying that we can have taken the top and we can just sit on the side and somebody pulls your wetsuit out.
if you ask them, you got to make contact with them and say, "Hey, can you help me take my wetsuit off?" Not necessarily.
Exactly. Don't just lie down on the ground. They won't know what you're doing.
Yeah, you just wait.
They're supposed to have wetsuit peelers towards the end of the shoot, according to their webinar.
So yeah, if you have someone saying, "Let me take your wetsuit off," you can let them take it off. No matter what, start taking it down as you're running, just to save you some time. And if you see them there, then use it. If you don't see them, you run right by it. At least you have it down to your waist. By the time you get to your bike, you can strip it off, put on your bike shoes, put on your helmet, grab your bike, and go to the bike out area. 58-degree water temperature. We don't have to worry about surf. We don't have to worry about tide. Really don't have to worry about wind too much. So don't worry about that. But just look at that water temperature. Now, there's not much of a warm up. Like, you're not allowed to warm up. You could go to the beach side and jump in the water, just get a feel for it, and then come back to the harbor side for the race. A lot of you aren't going to do that. So you have to get moving while you're waiting in line, right? You're doing some squats, maybe some push-ups, maybe some jumping jacks. But if you start and it's 58 degrees, there's a bunch of people around you, you're in a wetsuit, there's a chance you're going to hyperventilate, right? You start to get behind on your breath. You feel like you're going to die. You're not going to die. It's just your breath getting away from you. Just take a couple breathstrokes, maybe get on your back, just relax, let your breathing come back to normal, and then slowly get back into your stroke. You're fine. It always is less time than you think it is. And I'm not saying it's going to happen to you, but just something to look out for. When you don't have a great warm up, there's no real good warm up situation, there's a chance this could happen. If it happens, just relax, slow down, wait it out, and then ease back into your stroke. It happens to all of us. Once you do start, right, you make it. I want you guys to swim hard out to that first turn buoy. So at the first left-hand turn buoy, right after the start, it's about 150 meters off the start. I want you guys to swim pretty strong to that first turn buoy. Once you make that left-hand turn, then you can find that nice, solid, strong race pace effort. But I'd like you to get out strong and get away from some of the mess, the chaos of the swim start by getting into a good effort as soon as you jump into it, because they let 4 people off every 5 seconds. You're going to be going off with 4 other people. I'd rather you put your head down, swim hard to the first left-hand turn, make that left-hand turn, and then find that nice, strong, relaxed stroke where you're swimming straight, you're staying as tight to the buoys as you can, and you're staying efficient without getting too choppy or inefficient, you know. So swim hard to the first buoy, make the left-hand turn, and then you can find that nice, strong, relaxed stroke that you guys know and you've practiced so many times. Like I said, it becomes a very wide breadth of water out there. So stay as tight to the buoys as you can. If you're the further off your buoys, especially as it starts to open up, the more you're adding to the swim, which is adding time. And then, like I said, once you stand up and start going up that ramp, you're going to be a bit wobbly, but just keep moving forward. Your body will settle down.
You said the end is steep, but on the start of it, is it slippery on the ramp?
They have mats out there. I mean, obviously, be cautious. I've never had an issue with slipping. When you first stand up, you know, you're going from, you know, that one position to the standing position. So just be very cautious as you're ankle deep coming out of the water. And then it's pretty sturdy. I mean, they have good rubber mats there that has good grips. You shouldn't have any issues coming out.
Okay, thanks.
All right, like I said, with the transition, make it snappy, guys. Get in and get out. Don't spend too much time. Don't sit there and eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Grab your stuff, put it on, grab your bike, and get out. Make sure you have that race number on. Pull your wetsuit down as you run. It's a long run. We already touched on all that stuff. I do have a YouTube video on how to get your wetsuit off quickly. If that's something you want to look at, it's on our Tower 26 page. It's one of the first, I could actually, let's share it in the comments after this. Let me remind me to share it in the comments. if you need to wear socks and you wear socks on the bike in training, do it on race day. Take the time, put the socks on. A blister could ruin your day, and we don't want that to happen. We want you to be able to get the most out of the performance. Put your helmet, your sunglasses on, your shoes, grab your race belt, grab your bike, carefully run to the mountain line. It's all concrete, guys. Asphalt concrete. It's all wet. People have been running on it. So I don't want you to slip and catch a hip. Now we're talking, Catherine, we're talking about with the bike, right? You have your bike, you're running to the mountain line. This is where you have to be really cautious. You have your bike shoes on, you're on your cleats, it's slippery, you're on asphalt. So just be cautious. Don't be sprinting and then, fall down, break a hip. Be cautious with that. And past that mountain line, you got to get across the mountain line, which is out the bike out banner before you can get on your bike. So don't get on before that or they will have a word with you. All right, bike course. And I have how I executed this the last year. So I'm going to go over that on one of the later slides. So you'll see how I executed and you kind of see how greatness happens. But obviously 56 miles, 2,720 feet of elevation gain, which is deceiving because that all happens between mile 25 and 43, or a majority of it happens between mile 25 and 43. I see someone put something in the chat. If you want to speak up, I can't see it. So speak up and ask me what you're putting in there. We're staying right at all times. You only move left to pass. You're looking over your shoulders. There's some areas that are pretty tight, so make sure you look over that shoulder before you pass. We've had a couple athletes get veered into barriers on either side of the road because they didn't look before they're passing or they didn't take a log off the fire. They were too aggressive and they didn't make the smart decisions. So just be very defensive out there. And if you need to back it down for a second in order to let somebody pass you, do it, and then you can make the pass on your own. Pay attention to all the course markings. It's extremely well marked course. There's volunteers everywhere, so that shouldn't be an issue. At mile 39, there's a 25 mile an hour max speed zone, and it's nothing. It doesn't even feel like anything. But years and years ago, someone died at this area. I don't know if they didn't know how to handle a bike or what, because you'll look at it and be like, that was nothing. But you cannot go faster. You cannot average faster than 25 miles an hour from the start point to the finish point. And they take your start time, they take your finish time at this area, and they find out if you were shorter than a 25 miles an hour as it took to get from start to finish, they qualify you from the entire race. So go slower than you think you should be going, guys. And like I said, it seems like nothing. It's not technical or anything, but you cannot go fast. One of the stipulations in order to keep having the race on this course is they have to have this speed limit zone. So that's at mile 39. Just pay attention and go slower than you think you have to go. Once you pass that line that says speed limit over, then you hammer again, right? Now,
Oh,
go ahead.
The speed limit thing, it's also a no passing zone.
Yeah, so there's tons of signs everywhere. Just pay attention to the signs. And that's a good point because there might be somebody in front of you going 15 miles an hour. Don't get frustrated, guys. They will disqualify if you see you pass or if you go faster than 25. Just take your time, use this time to get in a little extra nutrition, and then as soon as you're through it, which is no time at all, you can get back on it. It's going to make no difference in your race if you go 15 miles an hour or 20 miles an hour.
There are 3 no passing zones. There's one at approximately mile 5 where it's, I guess, just crap road. And then there was another one where the bike path gets really narrow, and then the speed zone is the third one.
Yeah, it's all marked really well, and just pay attention. They're not that long. They're never that long. Just pay attention to the signs and just abide by the rules. You don't want your day ruined because you got hasty for 30 seconds, right? Now we're going to go back to the swim map. So if you look at that transition, that blue line coming out of the swim into the transition, that's the same route you're going to take on your bike before you dismount. So you're not getting off your bike where you see the big run out banner at the straightaway right in the transition. They veer you to the right, and you got to ride that same path all the way to the dismount line, which is at the far end of transition again. And you'll notice when you're running it, when you're looking at it in the morning before the race and you're running it, there's a lot of really tight turns in there. So just be very cautious on that ride from the entry to the little channel. That's a no pass zone too. There's no room to pass anybody, but take it very slow, guys, because it's going to be wet from people running there. there's some really tight turns around the planters. So just pay attention that you're going to have to ride that entire right-hand side of the transition, and then you dismount at the far end of transition where you go in. Are there any questions on that? Everybody understand that?
So where we actually run outside of the swim, we'll be biking slowly.
Yes. At the end of the bike, when you're tired, you're low on nutrition, you have to go through this very technical part of the bike course. You can do it, it's fine, but just take it slow. And if you got to clip out and just, clip out your pedals and just keep your feet on top of the pedals so you have a little more maneuverability if you need it, do that. You don't come that far to crash at that area. I mean, and you're fine. You can navigate through it. Just be really careful. Okay. So we'll talk about this when we go over in the detail about how we execute. But just remember, when the course slows down, we slow down the least. When we're in that 25 to 43 mile area where it's just up, 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 and you're questioning why did I train one day for this race? I'm worthless right now. This is horrible. I feel like I'm going backwards. I'm the slowest, weakest human on the planet. Everybody feels like that. I've raced this race 9 times. I felt like it every single time because it's just a grind, up, up. But we all know our numbers. We all know where you should be holding. We know your heart rate. You know maybe you're going off power. You know your power. You know your perceived effort. As long as you're within those ranges, you're doing well, right? So don't let the speed or the fact that you feel like you're going nowhere influence your mindset, make you feel like I'm worthless. Why the heck did I train? I am so weak, because it is such a challenging grind for those 18 miles that everybody feels that way. As long as you're within your numbers, you're doing what you know is within your ability level, you're still riding to the best that you can on that part of the course. Because then when you crest at mile 45, you descend, you have a nice flat, hopefully with a tailwind coming in the transition, then you're back on the effort and you're in a great mind place. But that middle 18 miles is, 25 to 43 is it's soul crushing. All right, here's bike notes. Like I said, strong, maintainable effort. Make sure you stay within your ability levels. Most of us will be in that 75 to 85% range, heart rate, power wise. Make sure you keep a comfortable cadence. Don't grind too low or spin too high. Ideal 75 to 80 cadence wise. Jacqueline said behind the commissary around mile 5 is extremely rough, so just be ready for that. It's a no pass zone, and make sure if there's any water bottles on your bike that have a chance of ejecting, you keep an eye on them and you take those bumps that you're going to encounter a little easier, so you don't lose that nutrition we need. That other no pass zone is on old Pacific Coast Highway, where there could be surfers heading out in the morning. Just watch out for them. Make sure you are aware of them. They're not really aware of you, what you might be doing. And I've seen some crashes over the years between surfers and cyclists. So just be defensive at that area. Stay right at all times, like we already spoke about. You know where the hills come. We already spoke about that. Make sure you stay in that TT position as much as you can. Even though you don't think that you're descending, the TT position makes a difference. The more you can stay out of that wind, the better, especially that first 25 miles. Every time I ride this course, I think, oh my God, I'm gonna break 2 hours for the bike. I'm going so fast in this section. Stay in your TT position as much as you can for that first 25 miles, because when you get 25 to 43, you're going to be up and grinding up those hills. And then once you crest at mile 43, you start descending, you get into that last 8 miles straight away, get back in that TT position. We always going to use that TT bike over the road bike on a course like this, because there's so much time to be gained and the time when you're not climbing. Stay present, focus on the process, especially when you're out there in Camp Pendleton. There's not really much going on. You might hear an occasional cannon blast or whatever, but it's really easy to let the mind stray. Bring it back to present, bring it back on the process, and stay focused and find that flow. Find your ability to focus in on the process. Break the distance down into smaller chunks. There's markers every 5 miles, so you can just ride 5 miles to 5 miles to 5 miles, and then just make sure you stay on top of that nutrition the whole way on the bike. It's a really depleting run course. It can get really humid and really exposed out there on that run course. We want to front end load everything by staying on top of that nutrition on the bike. Stay on top of your hydration. Get in your carbohydrates, get in your electrolytes, and just know if you need the aid stations have electrolytes, they have water, they have caffeinated gel, non-caffeinated gel. So use those aid stations, and they're about every 15 miles. Questions on the bike? Anything?
Hey, can I share a fun fact about the bike route?
That's right, buddy.
I was in the Marines, and those hills, the first one's affectionately called Mount MFer.
Mhm.
The second one's called the Stairway to Heaven.
There you go.
So
Mount MFer and the Stairway to Heaven. I love
yeah,
it.
you can fill in the blanks.
Yeah, hoorah. Hoorah, Christopher. Love it. All
Hey,
right, transition.
Tim,
Yeah.
one quick question. When you leaving the little village on your first start of the bike, not even a mile, you go up a really steep hill to get
Yeah.
back out onto that road. So just make sure you're gearing properly when you're coming up to that hill.
Yeah, it's like
fine.
a screaming descent.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you hit this hill. So just be aware there's a hotel or something on the right hand side. The harbor is you're leaving the harbor on the left hand side, and you shoot up this really steep wake up legs hill. So good point, Chris. All right, run. Same thing. Make sure you get off your bike and you're running, but you're being careful with if you have your shoes on, run to your transition area. Rack your bike, sit down, take your shoes off, put your suit, your socks and shoes on, and then grab everything else and get out of transition. Put it on as you're running out. It's a long transition. The quicker you can get moving towards the exit, the better. So put on your shoes, put on your socks, put on your shoes, then grab your nutrition, your hat, your visor. You already have your race belt on, and run with that as you're putting it on, leaving the transition area, so you can make the most of that long transition. Get in and get out quicker than anybody else that you came in the transition with on your bike. I put Saturday here, but you guys are going to drop your bikes off Friday. So when you check into the race on Friday or Thursday, just make note of when the drop off ends on Friday, because I put Saturday there, but it's actually Friday. You're dropping your bike off. You drop your bike off at transition. They actually give you your timing chip when you drop your bike off. They'll tell you all that at check-in. But just so you guys know, when you do drop your bike off on Friday, make sure you look at some stagnant objects to know, okay, I know my bike is right by that palm tree or that outhouse, something that's not going to move. So when you come in on the bike, there's no bikes there because you're the fastest. It looks completely different than when you came in from the swim when all the bikes were there. Hey, my rack is right by that palm tree or whatever it is. So know around what type of stagnant object is there that you can parallel your bike to and run to, that your run shoes are going to be right there. Carefully dismount, rack the bike, sit down, put on the socks. You run out of transition, put on the hat, sunglasses, anything else you might need, make it snappy. All right, the run. At the beginning of the run, it's a straightaway right to the first turn. You got maybe a quarter mile out to the first turn. Use that time just to get the legs rolling. You're gonna have a slight uphill as you make the left-hand turn to the bridge. So use that area. Don't stress out if your legs aren't feeling great. You need to loosen up, right? Something Rach said yesterday on the call is think hips forward. You've been on the bike for 2.5, 3 hours. Your hips are tight. Get those hips forward. Open those hips up. Start driving your knees. Get that posterior chain engaged right away. Relax your upper body. Find a nice breathing. But don't put any stress on yourself for the first couple miles, guys. Just get the body moving. Once you loosen up, we all know we loosen up. We've done plenty of bricks. We've done plenty of training. We know you're going to loosen up, but don't put too much stress on yourself if you don't feel great the first mile, the first 2 miles. You'll be fine. It's 13 miles of running. It's a long way to go. Don't put the stress on yourself to be pinning it right off the start. So loosen up that upper body, drive your knees, hips forward, and get that posterior chain engaged because it is an extremely depleting course. It's pretty much all concrete. If you're compensating, if you're not thinking drive your knees, use the glutes. If you're putting too much stress on the knees, the adductors, the IT bands, as you get into the back half of the run, they're really gonna start to talk to you. So I gotta stress, you guys gotta stay engaged in the process, engaged in perfect technique from beginning to end, or else that compensation is gonna add up and you're gonna start to feel some cramping later in the run. There's a lot of false flats, uphills, over the top into downhills. Keep the good posture, nice turnover, drive your knees. As you crest the top of the hill, push over the top, let the gravity take you down, let those legs roll and loosen it up a little bit. Just run 1 mile at a time. You know the feel you should be at. If the heat is up, the humidity is up, it's exposed. Hopefully you front end loaded your nutrition, but if your pace isn't exactly where you wanted it, don't let that deter you. The bad wolf is going to pop up. As long as you know you're out there running within what you trained at, that ability level that you trained at, you know you're doing the right thing. So we want a nice even split, and the back half's going to get challenging. You know you did it right if you're fighting just to hang on mile to mile to mile, but you are hanging on. Your mind is there, your body's there, and you can see the finish line for about a mile, a little less than a mile. So once you see that finish line coming in at mile 12 to 13, put your head down and give it everything you have till you cross it. Use the aid stations. Like I said, it's humid. It's humid. It could be exposed. Use the water to splash on your skin, get that sweat off there. A lot of times when it is humid out, the sweat just gets on your skin and then starts to boil. So the more you can flush that sweat off the skin, you're going to be cooler and you're going to allow the body to have that naturally cooling effect. But you got to get that old sweat off the skin. All right, questions on the run course? Anything? Jason, what do you got?
Guys, don't be afraid to walk. Don't be afraid to walk the ramps or the hills. They can bite you in the butt if you're not used to them, and if you're trying to power up those.
So you're breaking up a little bit. You go up the pier ramp, right, to like a little overlook.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's better. So there's a couple really steep inclines and descents, very short, but you go up the pier and then you have to come back and you go up to where the pier is on the way back. Extremely steep, and then you have to go down both of those. And what Jason is saying, if you're more comfortable walking it, it's not going to be a big hit. They're so short, it might be smarter to walk up and walk down those areas than it is to try and grind it or really let the legs flow and take a pounding on the knees if you're trying to go down it too fast. So just be smart on those really steep areas. And both of them, you come out of extremely to steep left-hand turns. So just be cautious making that tight left-hand turn. Don't slip. Is that what you're saying, Jay?
Yeah. I don't know if you can hear me now, but yeah, I've seen tons of people on that last hill, the last lap, they cramp because they're trying to stride going down that hill, and it's the bombs, it's fireworks. So the bear jumps on your back. So just be mindful, little steps up the hill and then little steps down the hill.
Right. All right, so this is my race last year. Pretty much was right on the distance, swam 31 minutes. But if you look at the heart rate, it's pretty steady the whole way through. Never really spiked anything too much. 125 to 130. Not that I really paid attention to it, but if you can look at it as just evenly paced, right? There's not many surges. I didn't fall off it. I didn't stop. I just found a nice rhythm at about that 80%. You see, I pin it for the first 2 minutes, and then I settle in once I turn that first buoy and just kind of hold that effort the rest of the way. Not much there, as you see, but let's get it to the bike. So the bike, there's the undulation that we're talking about. If you look at the gray shaded area, that's the undulation of the course. Mile 43 hits, around 25 hits there where that first steep incline is. That's MFR Hill, as Christopher said. So it hits there, and then you have a steep descent, and then you climb, another steep descent, and then another climb to mile 43, which is right before the 2 hour mark. But if you look at the heart rate, no matter what the undulation is, it's pretty evenly paced, right? And up, down, up, down. There might be a couple with the really steep descents where it drops a little bit, but for the most part, I'm really dialed into that race pace 80% heart rate I was looking at, it was around 150. I believe it was 150 to 155 on this one. And I just honed in there. No matter if I was going uphill, downhill, I tried to hold that 150, 155 heart rate. Stayed in my TT position as much as possible, and it gave me a pretty good split, 226 on that ride for last year. So any questions on execution there? Anything? And it's all within your ability level, right? Some of us might be at our 80%, and we might be at 15 miles an hour. Some might be at 8%, be at 26 miles an hour. It's just you performing within your ability level. But a ride like this is gonna, as long as you stay on top of that nutrition, the carbohydrates, the electrolytes, a nice evenly paced ride is gonna lead to the best type of run because you're not burning so many matches, just powering up the hills and then taking your foot off the gas completely, then powering up the hills. A nice evenly paced ride is gonna yield the best run effort as long as you stay on top of that nutrition. We don't want to burn too many matches on the run by spiking and valley, spiking and valley, spiking and valley. So keep it consistent, and that's going to lead to a solid run. Bring it to the run course, same thing, consistent one after another after another. I think I average about 6:15 pace or 6:10 pace. There you go. on this, but the same thing, right? Like up, down, some super steep uphills, super steep downhills, but you just have a nice evenly paced run. And if anything left at mile 11, then you hunker down and you give it everything you have to the finish line. But I would say this is a pretty successful day. I think it was I don't know, remember what it was, 420 or something like that overall. But yeah, it was never like I was trying to go outside of my comfort zone. I was never going outside of what I was capable of. I had a plan going in. I wanted to hold those numbers. Nice, evenly paced run, evenly paced ride, stay on top of the nutrition, and allow me to run strong the entire way through on a pretty tough course. So, questions. What do we want to talk about?
Jim, for the guys who ride their trainers 90% of the time, be mindful on your back. I suggest getting out of the saddle, get off your saddle, and just getting a rhythm when you hit those steep hills. There's been a lot of back problems with people with hilly races when their body's not used to it. So just make sure you get out of your saddle a couple times, especially on the big hills when you're only going 8 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour. You don't need to be in your TT position when you're going that slow, unless there's obviously wind fix. But get out of your saddle, rest some muscles that aren't used to these climbs, and then get back into a rhythm once you hit the flat.
That's a good point. On the climbs, there's no reason to be in your TT position. If it's above 3%, get out and get into your glutes, hunker back down in that saddle, and use the glutes to drive you forward. When it's 1-2%, sure, you can stay in the TT position. But I was saying on the flatter areas of the course, get down. But as soon as it starts to hike up, get up on those hoods and really use your heels to drive those pedals down and really use your back end. Like Jason's saying, take the stress off the lower back. Make sure your hips are curled under you, and you're not letting that lumbar spine take any of the load, which it could definitely happen later in the ride, something like this. If you do find a headwind in the last 8 miles where you make the right-hand turn and you're heading back towards transition, just keep the nice fluid pedal stroke. I've only had that happen once or twice in all the times I've done it. Usually it's a tailwind, but if the big guy upstairs wants to give you a little more fun for the day, he'll give you a little headwind in the last 8 miles. Nice relaxed pedal stroke, keep the cadence up, don't grind away, and just take it 1 mile at a time. You'll get there. But stay in your TT position. Everything's going to tell you when you have a headwind, get out of your TT position, stay in it, cut the wind, and you might not be going as fast as you think you should be, but you're saving energy by cutting through it and not being a big sail sitting up into it. Malekian, what do you got? You got something. Come on. Nothing?
Jason, then in the hill comparing to Santa Barbara climbs, what are they comparable to? Like OSM?
Well,
Mountain
I'll say
Drive,
the last
Gibraltar?
bit of the biggest climb in Oceanside is probably like a OSM, but that's only for maybe 5 minutes, 4 minutes, not even that.
Yeah,
Okay.
just one pedal stroke at a time. Don't try and break any records. Just get up it, push over the top, and use the descent to get back into your mojo.
I guess my only question, Jim, are you lollygagging or are you flummoxing?
I think it's it depends on where you're at. If you're East Coast, you're lollygagging. West Coast, you're flummoxing. So, good question. I like that.
And in the bike ride for the aid station for the water, do you stop to get another bottle, or how do you do that?
However you're most comfortable. If you're going to stop, make sure you look behind you and make sure no one's barreling down. If you stop, you tend to pull over at the beginning of the aid station where you're way off the road. You could take the bottle if you're comfortable. If you're comfortable taking a bottle from the volunteers, they're holding it out. You take it as you're going. And slow down as much as you need to grab it safely, but you grab it as you're going, and then you can do what you want to do with it. Sip on it, refill your reservoir, whatever you need to do.
Okay.
But the way the aid stations goes, if you guys never done an Ironman event, it's water, electrolyte drink, gels, electrolyte drink, water. So it's maybe 300 meters. They always give you 2 shots at the liquids: water, electrolyte, gels, electrolyte, water. So that's how the volunteers are broken up. So the first ones you'll see will have water, the second one will have electrolyte, third gels, fourth electrolyte, 5 water. What else? Anything? O'Driscoll, anything?
No, I would suggest and newbies if it's their first time race, don't be greedy on the bike. Definitely don't be greedy on the bike.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very challenging run course.
Very
And
challenging course.
you guys got to respect it. People say, "Oh, it's a
Yep.
flat run course." It's not flat. It's up and down and up and down. And because it's all concrete, it's really depleting on the body. So, like I said, just be really mindful of how you're moving. Always come back to technique, getting the right muscles involved. Don't let that compensation kick in as the fatigue starts to set in. And you guys will be great. Keep that good posture, drive your knees, and finish strong. As soon as you drop back down to the bike path and you can see that finish, then it's on. Rip the Band-Aid off and finish with everything you have left in the tank. And then have fun afterwards.
I did have one thought, Jim, that wasn't a joke. Don't get there too early, man. Like, you don't need to get there at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
You can waste a lot of energy getting there too early and hanging out too long.
Yeah, you just end up sitting around. Most people actually walk there in the morning. It's not a long walk if your hotel is by the finish line. It's actually a pretty nice walk. So saunter on down, but I would say good point, Brian. There's no reason to get there before 5:30. That's probably the earliest you want to get there. There's plenty of bike pumps and there's plenty of time to do what you need to do if you get there 5:30 on. So a little secret also, if you need to use the friendly confines, if you need to hit the can, there is public bathrooms on the other side of the pier. It's actually on the run course, so you got to jog there as a little warm up. But if there's a huge lines for the toilet, jog the run course, cross the bridge, make the right hand turn. As soon as you get down to the bike path at the ocean, there's bathrooms right there. There's public toilets. There's a ton of them. So, insider tip. What else? Anything? Anton, you good? He's good. All right, guys. Are we good?
Jimmy, do we have a list of all the Tower 26 athletes that are racing?
Yeah, I will post it on our, I don't know, Facebook page, Instagram page. I'll put it on there, so we see it. I actually sent the email out to most of you guys, and I put your CC on there so you guys could see it. So if anyone has any questions or anyone wants to talk anything over, just reply to that. And if you're not on there, text me or email me. I'll add you to that list.
You mentioned happy hour on Thursday. I'll only be driving on Friday. Is there anything for after the race for Tower 26 athletes to get together?
Just at the post race area is so fun that I would say like just try and congregate there. I mean, that's where we usually just congregate, take photos, have a good time. The awards aren't until 4 p.m., so you got a lot of people hanging out until that time. So, I mean, some people decide to go eat lunch or whatever before that, but I would say that post race area is just a good time. There's going to be people everywhere, and it adds to the fun of the event, hanging out there after the race, because so many people are there just enjoying each other's company and just rehashing war stories. If anyone is in Oceanside at tomorrow night, you can go to the Tri Club happy hour. No one should go over there and get shit faced or anything, but you go there and shake hands, kiss babies. There's the invite. I've just put the code in there. Yeah, Michael, did I answer your question? Where's Michael? About wearing the bib on the bike. I hope you got that. You have to wear your bib on the bike. Did you get that?
So for this race, you do have to wear your bib on the bike?
This is the only race you have to wear the bib on the bike. In order to get on Camp Pendleton, you have to have your bib on. So you have to wear your bib on the bike at this race only.
Okay.
It's the only one I've ever known of.
Thanks for confirming that.
Yeah, so make sure, and they won't let you leave T1 without it on. They send people back to their transition area to get it all the time. So just head it off the pass and get it on as you're grabbing your bike.
When you mentioned CT, what are you referring to?
CT. When did I say that?
A few minutes ago when you were talking about the list of Tower 26 people.
I'll put it on Instagram. I'll put it on Facebook. And I sent out an email reminding everybody about this call. So if somebody's not on that email, I'll add it to it so you guys have each other's contact. Sound good? All right, guys.
On that email.
Oh, you weren't? Oh, I'll add you to it. All right, guys. Godspeed. Let's have some fun out there, huh? Represent. World champions. World champions.
Good luck, everyone. Thanks, Jim.
Good luck, guys. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Have fun.
Bye. Later.
Thank you, Jim.